1. We've got a real treat for you, a 1972 Buick Riviera, also known as the Boat Tail, and it's up for grabs on Craigslist for just $15,000. This beauty is a real head-turner with its bronze exterior and a classy 60/40 sandalwood interior. It's got 109,000 miles on the odometer, but don't let that fool you. This baby runs like a dream. The seller says it's a smooth ride and a blast to drive, thanks to its powerful 455 4-barrel engine. Now, I know what you might be thinking. A car this old must be a rusty bucket of bolts, right? Well, think again. The seller assures us that the body is solid and rust-free. Plus, it's had a ton of updates, including new brakes, tires, fuel tank, sending unit, and fuel pump. The tie rods and ball joints have been replaced, and even the carburetor has been rebuilt. And if that wasn't enough, the transmission has been replaced too. The seller even has receipts for all the work done, so you know they're not just blowing smoke. And get this, the car was bought after being in storage for a whopping 30 years. The vinyl top was removed, and the top was painted to match the rest of the car, giving it a sleek, uniform look. Now I'll be straight with you. The driver's side seat and armrest show some wear, but hey, that just adds to the character, right? The dash is clean though, so you can cruise in style. The seller is asking $15,000, but they're open to offers. And if you're interested, they even have a video of the engine running so you can hear that baby purr. All in all, this 1972 Buick Riviera is a real gem. It's got a powerful engine, a solid body, and a ton of updates that make it a reliable ride. Plus, with its vintage style and classy interior, you'll be turning heads wherever you go. So what are you waiting for? Head on over to Craigslist and make an offer before someone else snaps up this beauty. 2. We've got a real treat for you, a 1967 Cadillac DeVille that's up for grabs on Craigslist for just $10,000. First off, let's talk about the condition of this beauty. The seller says it's in excellent shape, and from what I can see, they're not exaggerating. The car has been completely redone inside and out, with new upholstery, seats, and dash. And get this, there's no rust or body damage to be found anywhere on this classic ride. Under the hood, you'll find a powerful 8-cylinder engine that runs on gasoline. And with only 44,000 miles on the odometer, this baby has plenty of life left in it. The transmission is automatic, so you can cruise in style without having to worry about shifting gears. Now I know what you might be thinking. A car this old must have some issues with the title, right? Well, think again. The seller has the title in hand, and it's clean as a whistle, so you can buy with confidence knowing that you're getting a legit ride. The seller is asking $10,000 for this beauty, but they're a serious seller and aren't interested in lowball offers. They want cash in hand and in person to talk price. So if you're interested, you'll need to show up ready to negotiate. All in all, this 1967 Cadillac DeVille is a real gem. It's in excellent condition, has a clean title, and has been completely redone inside and out. Plus, with its classic style and powerful engine, you'll be turning heads wherever you go. So what are you waiting for? Head on over to Craigslist and make an offer before someone else snaps up this beauty. 3. We're diving into a classic from the 1970s, a Ford Maverick that's up for grabs on Craigslist. This vintage ride is going for $4,000, and it's ready for a new owner to take the wheel. Now, let's get real for a moment. The seller's description is pretty brief, so we don't have a ton of details to work with. But here's what we do know. This Maverick is a complete car, and it's got a solid body with no rust. That's a big plus for a vehicle that's been around for over 5 decades. It's also rocking an automatic transmission and a straight-six engine under the hood. But here's the thing. With a car this old, you've got to be prepared for some potential issues. The seller doesn't mention anything about the mechanical condition or any recent maintenance, so it's tough to say what kind of shape it's really in. And with 90,000 miles on the odometer, it's definitely seen some action over the years. So, is this 1970 Ford Maverick worth the $4,000 asking price? It really depends on what you're looking for. If you're a collector or a die-hard Maverick fan, it might be worth checking out. But if you're after a reliable daily driver, you might want to think twice. At the end of the day, it's all about doing your due diligence. If you're serious about this car, make sure to get it inspected by a trusted mechanic before making any decisions. And don't be afraid to negotiate with the seller. You never know, you might be able to score a sweet deal on this classic ride. 4. We've got a real treat for you. A 1971 Oldsmobile Delta 88 Royale convertible that's up for grabs on Craigslist. This classic beauty is priced at $11,500, and let me tell you, it's got some serious style. First off, can we talk about that stunning red paint job? It's sure to turn heads wherever you go. And with a convertible top that's only a few years old, you can enjoy the wind in your hair and the sun on your face as you cruise down the road. Under the hood, this Delta 88 is packing some serious heat with a 455 rocket engine. That's a lot of power, folks. And with an automatic transmission, power windows, power front seat, AC, and cruise control, this car is loaded with features that make driving a breeze. Now, let's talk about the condition. The seller claims that this car is in excellent shape, and based on the description, I'm inclined to believe them. With just 124,680 original miles on the odometer, this Delta 88 has been well maintained over the years. Plus, it's had the same owner since 1989 and has always been garaged, so you know it's been loved. But here's the thing. With any classic car, there's always a chance that there could be some hidden issues. That's why it's important to get a thorough inspection before making any big decisions. And while the seller says no trades, it never hurts to ask if you've got something cool to offer. Overall, if you're in the market for a classic convertible that's sure to make a statement, this 1971 Oldsmobile Delta 88 Royale is definitely worth checking out. With its powerful engine, stylish looks, and excellent condition, it's a car that's sure to bring a smile to your face every time you get behind the wheel. 5. We're taking a closer look at a 1974 Oldsmobile Delta 88 that's up for grabs on Craigslist. This classic convertible is located in sunny San Diego and can be yours for just $2,500. Now let's dive into the details. The seller mentions that this Delta 88 runs and drives well, which is always a good sign. It's got a clean title and current registration, so you shouldn't have any issues with paperwork. The car also comes with some service records, which is a nice bonus. Under the hood, you'll find a 350 automatic transmission that's ready to hit the road. The seller has recently replaced the radiator, plugs, and wires, so you know it's been maintained. The brakes are also in good shape, which is crucial for any classic car. But here's where things get a little tricky. The seller admits that there's some heavy rust around the wheel wells, which is a common issue with older cars. The paint on the top is also faded, so it might need some TLC to get it looking its best. And while the heater is working, the AC is not, so keep that in mind if you're planning on cruising during the hot summer months. Another thing to note is that the convertible top won't go up and down, which is a bit of a bummer, and a few of the back windows don't roll up, so you might want to factor in some repair costs if you're planning on using this car as a daily driver. But here's the thing. Despite its flaws, this 1974 Oldsmobile Delta 88 is still a cool beach cruiser that's sure to turn heads. The seller mentions that it gets lots of thumbs up, and I can see why. There's just something about a classic convertible that makes people smile. So, is this Delta 88 worth the $2,500 asking price? It really depends on what you're looking for. If you're a handy person who doesn't mind putting in some work to get this car back to its former glory, it could be a fun project. But if you're looking for a turnkey classic that's ready to hit the road, you might want to keep searching. At the end of the day, it's all about knowing what you're getting into. Make sure to get a thorough inspection before making any big decisions. And don't be afraid to negotiate with the seller if you think the price is a bit high. 6. We've got a real gem on our hands. A 1963 Chrysler New Yorker that's up for grabs on Craigslist. This classic beauty is priced at $8,000, and let me tell you, it's got some serious style. First off, can we talk about the fact that this New Yorker has had only one owner since 1963? That's right, folks, one owner. And according to the seller, this car is in near-perfect condition with zero rust. That's a rare find for a vehicle that's almost 60 years old. Under the hood, you'll find a gas-powered engine that's ready to hit the road. And get this, it's got a push-button transmission. How cool is that? It's like stepping back in time to the golden age of American automobiles. Now, the seller doesn't provide a ton of details about the car's specific features or upgrades, but they do mention that it's a must-see and that you should bring cash and drive it home. That suggests to me that this New Yorker is in excellent condition and ready to roll. Of course, with any classic car, there's always a chance that there could be some hidden issues. The odometer reads 100,000 miles, which is relatively low for a car of this age, but it's still important to get a thorough inspection before making any big decisions. Overall, if you're in the market for a stunning classic car that's sure to turn heads, this 1963 Chrysler New Yorker is definitely worth checking out. With its one-owner history, near-perfect condition, and push-button transmission, it's a car that's sure to bring a smile to your face every time you get behind the wheel. So, what do you think, folks? Is this New Yorker the classic car of your dreams? 7. We're taking a closer look at a 1981 Chevrolet El Camino that's up for grabs on Craigslist. This classic ride is priced at $4,500, and it's got some serious potential. First off, let's talk about the basics. This El Camino is powered by a 305 Ci V8 engine with an automatic transmission. The seller mentions that it starts and runs, which is always a good sign. However, they do recommend some maintenance like new fuel, a tune-up, and general upkeep. That's pretty standard for a car that's over 40 years old. Now let's talk about the condition. The seller describes the body as straight with no rust, which is a huge plus for a classic car. There is a small dent on the back corner, but that seems to be the only cosmetic issue mentioned. The interior isn't described, so you'll want to take a closer look at that if you're interested in this ride. One thing to note is that the odometer has rolled over, so the actual mileage is unknown. The seller lists it as 100,000 miles, but it's likely much higher than that. Keep that in mind when considering the overall condition and value of the car. The seller also mentions that they had intentions of doing an LS swap, but haven't had the time due to other projects. For those who don't know, an LS swap involves replacing the original engine with a more modern, high-performance LS engine. It's a popular upgrade for classic cars like this El Camino. Overall, if you're in the market for a classic El Camino with some potential, this 1981 model might be worth checking out. It's got a straight body, a running engine, and a relatively affordable price tag. Just be prepared to put in some work to get it up to your standards. Of course, as with any used car purchase, it's important to do your due diligence. Get a thorough inspection, take it for a test drive, and make sure you're comfortable with the overall condition and any potential issues. 8. We've got a real treat for you, a 1964 Mercury Marauder that's up for grabs on Craigslist. This classic sedan is priced at $6,000, and it's got some serious potential. First off, let's talk about the engine. This Marauder is powered by a 390cc V8 engine that's been rebuilt with less than 1,000 miles on it. That's a huge selling point for any classic car, as it means the engine should have plenty of life left in it. The seller also mentions that it runs great, which is always a good sign. The transmission is an automatic, which makes this Marauder a breeze to drive. It also has power steering, which is a nice feature for a car of this age. And if you're worried about paperwork, don't be. This Marauder has current tags, so you should be able to hit the road right away. Now, let's talk about the condition. The seller describes it as good, which is a bit vague. There aren't any specific details about the interior or exterior, so you'll want to take a closer look if you're interested in this ride. It's also worth noting that the odometer has rolled over, so the actual mileage is unknown. The seller lists it as 10,000 miles, but it's likely much higher than that. One thing to keep in mind with any classic car is that there may be some hidden issues or maintenance needs. Even with a rebuilt engine, it's important to get a thorough inspection and be prepared for some ongoing upkeep. Overall, if you're in the market for a classic Mercury Marauder with a rebuilt engine and some serious style, this 1964 model might be worth checking out. It's got a relatively affordable price tag and some desirable features like power steering and current tags. Of course, as with any used car purchase, it's important to do your due diligence. Get a thorough inspection, take it for a test drive, and make sure you're comfortable with the overall condition and any potential issues. 9. We're diving into a classic from the late 1960s, a 1969 Mercury Cougar convertible that's up for grabs on Craigslist. This vintage ride is going for $7,150, and it's got some serious potential for the right buyer. First off, let's talk about the good stuff. This Cougar is rocking a factory M-Code 351 4V engine, which is a big plus for collectors and performance enthusiasts. It's also got a super desirable burnt orange metallic paint job that's sure to turn heads wherever you go. The seller mentions that most of the paint is original, except for the passenger door, which was replaced at some point. Inside, you'll find a factory black interior with bucket seats, a rim-blow steering wheel, and a convertible top switch. The seller admits that the interior will need some cleaning and new carpet, but it's all there and ready for a restoration. Now let's talk about the not-so-good stuff. The seller describes the overall condition as fair, which means there are some issues to address. The biggest one seems to be the engine. It was completely disassembled and then reassembled for shipping, but it has no gaskets and will need a complete rebuild. The automatic transmission should also be inspected and possibly rebuilt before hitting the road. There's also some damage on the passenger rear quarter panel behind the tire, but the seller says the rust is minimal overall. In fact, they go as far as calling this Cougar almost rust-free, which is a big deal for a car that's over 50 years old. So, is this 1969 Mercury Cougar convertible worth the $7,150 asking price? It really depends on what you're looking for. If you're a collector or a die-hard Cougar fan, the factory options and minimal rust could make it a worthwhile project. But if you're after a turnkey classic that's ready to hit the road, you might want to keep looking. At the end of the day, it's all about doing your due diligence. If you're serious about this car, make sure to get it inspected by a trusted mechanic and factor in the cost of a complete rebuild before making any decisions. 10. We've got a real gem on our hands. A 1978 Mercury Marquis Brougham that's up for grabs on Craigslist. This classic two-door sedan is priced at $9,000. And let me tell you, it's in fantastic condition. First off, can we talk about how clean this Marquis is? The seller describes it as being in excellent condition, and based on the photos, I have to agree. The white paint job looks pristine, and the interior trim is absolutely spotless. It's clear that this car has been well maintained over the years. Under the hood, you'll find a beefy 400 cubic inch engine that's ready to hit the road. The seller mentions that the car runs great, which is always a good sign. And with only 2 previous owners, you know this Marquis has been in good hands. Now, let's talk about the features. This Marquis is loaded with all the goodies you'd expect from a top-of-the-line model. It's got air conditioning to keep you cool on hot summer days, power windows and seats for ultimate convenience, and a new tune-up and battery to ensure it's running at its best. The seller even replaced the gas tank and fuel pump, so you shouldn't have to worry about any fuel system issues. One thing to note is the odometer reading. The seller mentions that the mileage may be slightly higher than what's listed, but it's still very low for a car of this age. The odometer photo in the ad shows just over 8,000 miles, which is incredibly impressive for a 43-year-old vehicle. Overall, if you're in the market for a classic American sedan that's in excellent condition, this 1978 Mercury Marquis Brougham is definitely worth checking out. With its powerful engine, luxurious features, and low mileage, it's a car that's sure to turn heads and provide plenty of enjoyment for years to come. Of course, as with any used car purchase, it's important to do your due diligence. Get a thorough inspection, take it for a test drive, and make sure all the features are working as they should. But if everything checks out, this Marquis could be the classic car of your dreams. 11. We've got a real treat for you. A classic 1963 Ford Falcon Futura convertible that's up for grabs on Craigslist. This vintage ride is priced at $12,500, and it's got some serious potential for the right buyer. First off, let's talk about the good stuff. This Falcon is rocking a smooth inline 6 170cc engine paired with an automatic C4 transmission that's been professionally tuned. That means you can expect a reliable and enjoyable driving experience right out of the gate. It's also got disc front brakes for added stopping power, which is a nice upgrade from the original drum brakes. Now let's talk about the cosmetics. The seller mentions that the car was repainted at one point in a color close to the original Ming green, but the hood and trunk need a repaint. The interior is also described as needing some work, but the seller doesn't go into specifics. It's clear that this Falcon is more of a driver than a show car, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. One of the biggest selling points of this Falcon is that it's a convertible. The seller says the roof is fixed and working well, so you can enjoy those sunny summer drives with the top down. And with its classic good looks and fun-to-drive nature, this Falcon would make a great beach cruiser or weekend warrior. Of course, as with any classic car, there are some things to keep in mind. The seller describes the paint and interior as fair, which means they'll likely need some attention if you want to bring this Falcon up to show quality. But if you're looking for a running, drivable project car to tinker with and improve over time, this could be a great option. The seller also mentions that they're parting with this Falcon because they found one in slightly better condition down south. That's not uncommon in the world of classic cars, and it could be an opportunity for you to score a great deal on a vintage ride with plenty of potential. Overall, if you're in the market for a classic convertible with a reliable drivetrain and some room for improvement, this 1963 Ford Falcon Futura is definitely worth checking out. Just be sure to get a thorough inspection and factor in any potential repair costs before making an offer. 12. We're taking a closer look at a 1971 Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme Holiday Edition that's up for grabs on Craigslist. This classic ride is priced at $13,000, and while it's got some issues, it's still a pretty cool find. First off, let's talk about the engine. This Cutlass is rocking a 350 rocket engine, which is a solid power plant for a car of this era. The seller mentions that it runs great and has had a recent tune-up and new timing chain, so that's definitely a plus. The exterior of this Cutlass is finished in a root beer brown color with a cream vinyl top. The seller admits that the top is in bad shape and will need to be replaced. There's also some rust issues to contend with, including holes in the fenders and surface rust in the trunk. The seller has repaired some of it, but it will still need some body work to get it looking its best. Inside, the interior is tan in color, and the car was originally equipped with air conditioning, but the compressor and hoses are missing. The CD player is also not working, so you'll have to find another way to jam out to your favorite tunes. On the bright side, this Cutlass has had some recent maintenance done, including new front brakes and tires. The transmission was also rebuilt years ago, which is a big plus for a car of this age. Now, here's where things get a little tricky. The seller mentions that this Cutlass has been sitting for 14 years, and while they've started it up and driven it around the block, it's still going to need some work to get it roadworthy. There are also some minor electrical issues to sort out. The odometer shows 140,000 miles, which is not too bad for a car that's over 50 years old. And while the seller describes the overall condition as fair, it's clear that this Cutlass is more of a project car than a turnkey classic. So, is this 1971 Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme Holiday Edition worth the $13,000 asking price? It really depends on what you're looking for. If you're a skilled mechanic or a die-hard Oldsmobile fan, this could be a fun project to take on. But if you're looking for a classic car that's ready to hit the road right away, you might want to keep searching. The seller does mention that they're motivated to sell and are open to offers, but they're not interested in trades or lowball offers. So if you're serious about this Cutlass, be prepared to negotiate and have cash in hand. 13. We've got a real gem on our hands. A 1969 Pontiac Grand Prix that's up for grabs on Craigslist. This classic coupe is priced at $8,200, and let me tell you, it's got some serious potential. First off, can we talk about how cool this car looks? The black paint job is sure to turn heads wherever you go, and the sleek lines of the Grand Prix are just timeless. This particular model has been garaged since 2005, which is a big plus for any classic car. Under the hood, you'll find a rebuilt 400 engine paired with a turbo 400 transmission. The seller mentions that both the motor and trans run and shift strong, which is always a good sign. And with new tires, a stainless fuel tank, sending unit, fuel pump, brake hydraulics, rear springs, battery, and starter, this Grand Prix has been given some serious love in the mechanical department. Inside, you'll find bucket seats, power windows, a console floor shift, a tilt column, and power disc brakes. These are all great features to have in a classic car, and they make the driving experience that much more enjoyable. Now, the seller does mention that this Grand Prix would make a great restoration project, but it's also in good enough shape to drive as is. That's a big plus for anyone who wants to enjoy their classic car right away without having to sink a ton of money into it first. Of course, with any classic car, there are always going to be some potential issues to keep in mind. The odometer shows 100,000 miles, which is relatively low for a car of this age, but it's still important to get a thorough inspection before making any big decisions. Overall, if you're in the market for a classic Pontiac Grand Prix with a strong engine, great features, and plenty of potential, this 1969 model is definitely worth checking out. With its sleek black paint job and rebuilt mechanicals, it's sure to turn heads and provide plenty of smiles per mile. 14. We've got a real gem on our hands, a 1967 Oldsmobile Cutlass that's up for grabs on Craigslist for just $9,000. This classic beauty is a true testament to American muscle, and it's got the specs to prove it. Under the hood, you'll find a beastly 330 cubic inch V8 engine that churns out an impressive 320 horsepower at 5,200 RPM and 360 lb-ft of torque at 3,600 RPM. With just 72,000 miles on the odometer, this Cutlass has plenty of life left in it. The automatic transmission shifts smoothly, and the rear-wheel drive layout ensures that you'll feel every bit of that power as you cruise down the road. The seller claims that the car is in excellent condition, and from what we can see, it looks like they're telling the truth. The white paint job is in good shape, and the body is straight as an arrow. The interior is clean and features the original stereo and gauges, giving you that authentic vintage feel. And with a set of American racing wheels wrapped in new tires, this Cutlass has the perfect stance. But it's not just about looks. This car runs strong too. The Flowmaster mufflers give it a throaty exhaust note that's sure to turn heads wherever you go. And with a clean title and a firm price of $9,000, this Cutlass is a steal for any serious collector or enthusiast. Of course, as with any classic car, there may be some minor issues that need addressing. But based on the seller's description and the photos provided, this 1967 Oldsmobile Cutlass seems to be a solid buy. So if you're in the market for a vintage muscle car that's got style, power, and a whole lot of character, this might just be the one for you. 15. We've got a real treat for you, a 1979 Buick Regal that's been completely restored and is now up for sale at a price of $15,000. This classic ride has been given a new lease on life, and it shows in every detail. First off, let's talk about the body. The seller stripped every part down to the bare metal and gave it a fresh coat of black paint that's so smooth you could use it as a mirror. The result is a car that's aero-straight and looks like it just rolled off the showroom floor. It's clear that a lot of time and effort went into getting this Regal looking its best. Inside, the car has been given a modern upgrade with front and rear seats from a 2018 BMW 335i. Talk about riding in style. The new carpets, headliner, and all-weather stripping ensure that the interior is just as fresh as the exterior. And with only 69,000 miles on the odometer, this Regal has plenty of life left in it. But it's not just about looks. This car has been given some serious performance upgrades as well. The seller installed 2-inch front lowering spindles and 2-inch rear lowering coils, along with KYB shocks and end links. The result is a ride that's smooth and responsive, with a stance that's sure to turn heads. And with a set of 18-inch Fosse Kunkel rims wrapped in new Nitto Extreme tires, this Regal has the perfect combination of style and performance. Under the hood, you'll find a 6-cylinder engine that's been well maintained and runs like a dream. The seller mentions that there are too many new parts to list, but it's clear that a lot of work has gone into making sure this car is mechanically sound. And with a clean title and no accidents in its history, you can buy with confidence. Overall, this 1979 Buick Regal is a fantastic example of what can be achieved with a little bit of love and a lot of hard work. The seller has taken a classic car and given it a modern twist, creating a ride that's sure to impress. And at $15,000, it's a fair price for a car that's been given such a thorough restoration. So if you're in the market for a vintage ride that's got style, performance, and a whole lot of character, this might just be the one for you. 16. We've got a real beauty for you. A 1985 Buick LeSabre that's been cherished by one family since it first hit the road. This limited collector's edition is up for sale at a price of $9,500, and it's easy to see why. First off, let's talk about the condition. The seller describes it as excellent, and based on the photos, we have to agree. The blue paint job is stunning and looks like it's been well maintained over the years. The car has always been garaged, which has clearly helped to preserve its beauty. And with only 82,000 miles on the odometer, this LeSabre has plenty of life left in it. Inside, the car is just as impressive. The seller mentions that it's in excellent condition, and it shows. The interior looks clean and well kept, with no visible signs of wear and tear. And as a limited collector's edition, this LeSabre comes complete with all the original collector's information, making it a true piece of automotive history. Under the hood, you'll find a powerful 8-cylinder engine that's sure to provide plenty of get-up and go. The rear-wheel drive layout ensures that you'll feel every bit of that power as you cruise down the road. And with an automatic transmission, driving this LeSabre is a breeze. Overall, this 1985 Buick LeSabre is a fantastic example of a well-maintained classic car. It's clear that the family who owned it took great pride in keeping it in top condition, and it shows in every detail. From the stunning blue paint job to the immaculate interior, this car is a true gem. And at $9,500, it's a fair price for a piece of automotive history. Collector's editions like this don't come around very often, and it's clear that this one has been cherished by its owners. So if you're in the market for a classic car that's been well loved and well maintained, this 1985 Buick LeSabre might just be the one for you. In 17, we've got a real blast from the past. A 1959 Edsel Ranger that's up for grabs at a price of $7,500. This classic ride is a true piece of automotive history, and it's easy to see why. First off, let's talk about the condition. The seller describes it as good, and based on the photos, it's clear that this Edsel has been well maintained over the years. The original gray paint job is still looking nice, and the chrome and stainless trim are all in great shape. The upholstery is also original and looks to be in excellent condition, which is a testament to the care that this car has received. Under the hood, you'll find a V8 engine that's paired with an automatic transmission. The seller mentions that the car needs some engine work, but it's been running up until about a year ago. With a little bit of TLC, this Edsel could be back on the road in no time. One of the great things about this car is that everything works. The seller notes that all the features are in working order, which is impressive for a car that's over 60 years old. And with only 86,000 miles on the odometer, this Edsel has plenty of life left in it. Now it's worth noting that the seller is firm on the price of $7,500. They also mention that they have a 1958 and 1960 Edsel Ranger listed as well, so if you're in the market for a classic Edsel, you might want to check those out too. The seller prefers to talk on the phone rather than through text or email, so if you're interested in this car, you'll need to give them a call. But based on the description and the photos, it seems like this 1959 Edsel Ranger is a solid buy for anyone who appreciates classic cars. Overall, this Edsel is a fantastic example of a well-maintained vintage ride. It's got style, character, and a whole lot of history behind it. And at $7,500, it's a fair price for a car that's sure to turn heads wherever it goes. So if you're in the market for a classic car that's got a story to tell, this 1959 Edsel Ranger might just be the one for you. 18. We've got a real treat for you. A 1976 Plymouth Duster that's been given a new lease on life. This classic ride is up for sale on Craigslist for $13,900, and it's easy to see why. First off, let's talk about the history of this car. It spent its entire life in the Southwest, which means it's rust-free and solid. The seller mentions that it started off in El Paso as a service member's ride, and it still has the original dealership emblem and base stickers. That's a cool piece of history right there. Now let's talk about the engine. Originally, this Duster had a 318 under the hood, but the seller has swapped it out for a newly built 340. And let me tell you, this thing is a beast. It starts up, runs, and idles like a dream. The seller mentions that it's amazingly quiet at idle, but when you put your foot down, it really wakes up and roars. That's the kind of sound that gets your heart racing. The transmission is a 727 automatic that shifts well, and it's paired with a console push-button shifter. The car also has dual exhaust with headers and MagnaFlow mufflers, which adds to the overall performance and sound. Now, the seller does mention that the car still needs some work in certain areas. The interior is complete but worn, which is to be expected for a car that's been in the Southwest sun for so long. But the seller also mentions that they will continue to make improvements over time, so it's clear that they're committed to making this Duster the best it can be. One cool thing about this car is that it's currently geared for highway driving, but the seller has a new kit with a Posey-like Sure Grip center section and a decent set of 3.7/3.1 rear gears, along with Timken bearings. That means that with a little bit of work, you could have a car that's ready to tear up the streets. Overall, this 1976 Plymouth Duster is a solid base for anyone looking to make a classic Mopar their own. It's got a great history, a powerful engine, and plenty of potential for customization. And at $13,900, it's a fair price for a car that's sure to turn heads wherever it goes. The seller seems like a straightforward person who's passionate about this car. They've provided plenty of details and photos, and they're willing to answer any questions you might have. Just keep in mind that they prefer to communicate by phone or text, so if you're interested, give them a call or shoot them a message. 19. We've got a real beauty for you, a 1973 Lincoln Continental that's been lovingly cared for by its owner for over 40 years. This car is up for sale on Craigslist for $9,055, and it's easy to see why it's worth every penny. First off, let's talk about the condition of this car. The seller describes it as excellent, and based on the photos, we have to agree. The white paint job is stunning and looks like it's been well maintained over the years. The car has clearly been cherished by its owner, who was an excellent mechanic and took great pride in keeping it in top shape. Under the hood, you'll find a powerful 8-cylinder engine that's sure to provide plenty of get up and go. The seller doesn't provide too many specifics about the car's mechanical details, but given their father's expertise as a mechanic, we can assume that it's been well maintained and is in excellent working order. The odometer shows 120,640 miles, which is relatively low for a car of this age. That's a testament to the care and attention that this Lincoln has received over the years. It's clear that the owner took great pride in keeping it in top condition, both inside and out. Now, it's worth noting that the seller is offering this car for sale as part of the process of liquidating their father's estate. He passed away last April, and the family is now looking to find a new home for this beloved vehicle. The book value on this car is $11,500, but the seller is asking $9,950 in order to facilitate the sale. That's a fantastic deal for a car of this caliber. The 1973 Lincoln Continental is a true classic, with its sleek lines, spacious interior, and powerful engine. It's the kind of car that turns heads wherever it goes, and it's sure to be a hit at any car show or classic car event. Overall, this 1973 Lincoln Continental is a fantastic example of a well-maintained classic car. It's got style, power, and a whole lot of history behind it. And at $9,950, it's a steal for anyone who appreciates the craftsmanship and attention to detail that went into building these cars. 20. We've got a real gem for you, a 1968 Plymouth Fury 3 Commando that's up for grabs on Craigslist. This beauty is priced at $12,500 OBO, and it's easy to see why it's worth every penny. First off, let's talk about the engine. Under the hood, you'll find a powerful 383 cubic inch V8 with an Edelbrock 4-barrel carburetor. This thing is a beast, and it's sure to turn heads wherever you go. The seller has also upgraded the ignition system with an MSD unit, which means this car is going to fire up every time you turn the key. The transmission is a 737 Torque Flight automatic, which is known for its smooth shifting and durability. And with an 834 rear end and 3.25 gears, this car is built for cruising. The seller has also added headers and dual exhaust, which gives this Fury a nice deep rumble. Now let's talk about the interior. The seller notes that it's all original, which is a huge plus for anyone looking for a true classic. However, they do mention that the seals need to be redone, the headliner needs to be replaced, and the front seat needs to be reupholstered. But honestly, that's to be expected with a car that's over 50 years old. The good news is that the AM radio still works, so you can cruise around listening to your favorite tunes. The exterior of this Fury is in good condition, with a straight body and a nice green paint job. The seller does mention that there are some minor rust spots on the bumper and some chipped paint on the driver's side front fender, but overall, this car looks great. One of the best things about this Fury is that it comes with a clean title, and the seller has it in hand. They're asking for cash only and no trades, which is pretty standard for a classic car like this. Overall, this 1968 Plymouth Fury 3 Commando is a fantastic example of a well-maintained classic car. It's got a powerful engine, a smooth transmission, and a whole lot of character. And at $12,500 OBO, it's a fair price for a car that's sure to turn heads wherever it goes.